I was offered this Calatrava in August, 1 week after my first visit to a new authorized dealer. And I scheduled another visit for December to order a new strap for this, and I was surprised to be offered another Patek that was number one on my wish list. I scheduled the appointment online and received confirmation. I scheduled it 1 week ahead of time, and they still had plenty of appointments available. I really wasn't expecting to purchase another Patek so soon. I mainly wanted to order a shorter strap for my Calatrava in a different color. And I also wanted to re-express interest in the 5212 and 5226. The Patek Philippe section is beautiful and it's the nicest part of the store, and it's set apart from everything else. And just as we were sitting down and starting to talk about watch strap options, he brought out this beautiful Calatrava weekly calendar and said it was available and offered it to me. And this was not a display piece. He brought it out in its original sealed plastic sleeve and cut it open right in front of me. He said he knew I was coming in and he put it on hold for me. This was number one on my wish list, just above the 5226G. And the last time I visited in August, he seemed pretty confident that I would be able to get this. Let's do a quick unboxing, show some close-ups and wrist shots, and compare this to my other two Patek Philippe watches. I was still in shock at the AD that I was offered this so soon, just 4 months after my first visit and my first purchase, that I forgot to ask for the outer cardboard shipping box or the leather travel pouch. But inside the brown outer box, the presentation box is covered in this brown cloth. And below the presentation box is this very high quality brown leather folder sleeve that contains the documentation. On the right is the instruction manual and the register information. By filling out the registration and mailing it in, you can register your product and have a subscription to the Patek Philippe magazine. Or you can also do this online, which I usually do. It's not mandatory to do this. The authorized dealer will still send your name to Patek Philippe headquarters, and they will handwrite your name in their registry at headquarters in Geneva. The instruction manual is printed in several different languages, so that's why it's so thick, but I haven't read this yet. I was shown how to set the watch with the time, the date, and the week of the year while I was there at the AD. And the certificate is on the left, and having it in paper is still a nice touch. I can't show you the whole thing, but having them write down your name and address by hand is also a nice touch and makes it more personal to you. There's also information about the Patek Philippe Museum. The brown microfiber cloth fits perfectly over the inner presentation box to help protect it against scratches. And that presentation box is amazing. The quality of this box is way ahead of anything that Rolex has. This box comes with almost all of the regular Patek Philippe watches, but with some of the very high-end Grand Complications watches, you get a even better, very ornate box. But this box is very heavy, very high quality, made of a highly polished piano wood. It has metal hardware. I'm not sure what they're made of, but the buckle design has that design of the Calatrava clasp, and there's also a Calatrava insignia on the top of the box. And finally, we get to the beautiful watch itself. The inside of the box is plush, very clean and minimal, no extra sleeves and no hidden compartments. There is a slot on the side of the cushion to hold the pusher tool, but I thought on my other ones there was also a slot on the other side to hold the hang tag, but this one didn't have that. I would say it's the color of the dial that immediately stood out to me at first glance. It's not just a white dial, it's a creamy white dial. It looks more vintage, but in certain lights, it's also a silvery white dial. And then you notice the design of the hands and the hour markers, and finally the intricate text on the dial. Everything makes this look like a classic watch, a vintage watch, but this watch was just released 4 years ago in 2019. It's part of their complications line, not the Calatrava line, but they call it the Calatrava weekly calendar. It has a completely new self winding movement that displays the week number, the day of the week, the date, time, and sweeping seconds. The color of the dial is silvery opaline, and the hour markers are made of gold but covered in this darkened material. The leather strap is made of calfskin in this light brown color. It's hand stitched and has a white gold prong buckle. The straps have quick release spring bars and come in a regular length, but the regular length is slightly too large for me. I'm wearing it on the tightest hole and it just barely fits my wrist. So I'll be wearing this with a shorter strap. I ordered one for my other Calatrava and I'll probably order another shorter strap for this. The case back is transparent and the movement is self winding. It has a central rotor in 21 karat gold, a Gyromax balance, and a Spiromax balance spring. It oscillates at 28,800 and has a power reserve of maximum 45 hours. The case is made of stainless steel, and that's unusual for Patek Philippe. Most of their watches are made in gold or platinum. So this is a rare stainless steel Patek Philippe, and having it in steel keeps the price down, but also makes it more durable. But the case is still beautifully designed and finished. It has a round case shape, but then there's an abrupt difference where it meets the lugs. So it makes it look like the lugs are growing out of the case, but still make it look like the lugs are distinctly different than the case. And with all of their models, Patek Philippe always pays strict attention to all the details of case design. On a 6.5 inch wrist, it wears slightly big, but doesn't overhang the wrist. The case diameter is 40 millimeters, and I believe the lug to lug distance is 49 millimeters, but I didn't measure that myself. It's still a thin watch despite all the complications, and does have some curvature to conform to the wrist, and it's not a heavy watch because it's not white gold. I'll quickly take it out with me and show you how it looks in the real world. Comparing it to my other Calatrava, the one on the left is the 6119G. It's made of white gold and it has a charcoal dial and it has only hours, minutes, and seconds. It's a more formal watch and the weekly calendar is a more casual watch. Both case diameters are 40 millimeters. The 6119G is thinner, but I think it wears slightly larger because the case shape is flat on the wrist. The 6119G is manual wind, so you can see here it does not have that self-winding rotor. The 5212 has two pushers on the side to set the day of the week and the week of the year. It has a smooth bezel, but like I said before, I think the case design is more complex than the Calatrava 6119G. It has a lot of complexity in the curvatures and the different shapes of the lugs. The 6119G is much thinner, but it also has a more simple case design in the way that the case smoothly transitions into the lugs, but it also has a flatter design, so it wears larger on the wrist. And this one has that nicely detailed guilloche hobnail pattern of the bezel. And now comparing it to a masterpiece of design, the 5205G on the left has three windows, one for the date, day, and year. It has a subdial for a second time zone and also a moon phase window. And it also has that beautiful blue gradient dial. Because of all those complications, it has a thicker case, but it has an illusion of looking smaller because of the concave design of the bezel. And it also has that wonderfully detailed design of the case with the scooped out sides and the see through lugs. This white gold case is also the heaviest out of all three, but I think it's also the most comfortable just because the way the lugs curve down so much to conform to the wrist. And I also have this on a short leather strap, which is more appropriate for my wrist. So even though this case diameter is also 40 millimeters, visually on the wrist, this watch looks the smallest on the wrist. Let me know in the comments which of these three you prefer the most, the 5205G, the 5212A, or the 6119G. For me, I think I still prefer the 5205G, but I still love that amazing intricate detail of the dial of the 5212. It has concentric circles displaying the day of the week of the year, and the month. The numbers of the week dial suddenly change orientation at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. The font of the text and numerals is designed to mimic a handwritten style, so several of the numbers or letters have a quirky style to them. And you can see that with the hash mark on the number 7. So, what's next for the Patek Philippe collection? These three are more than enough, and I think these make a good three watch Patek collection. But I still have interest in the 5226G and eventually a Nautilus down the road. But getting a Nautilus or an Aquanaut is very difficult and takes years to get from the authorized dealer. I overheard another salesperson greeting another customer. I think he walked in without an appointment and came asking directly for a Aquanaut or Nautilus. And she responded that they want you to be a Patek Philippe collector before they can offer you a sports watch. They want you to start slowly and start to enjoy their more classic watches for which they're known for. One of my commenters said before that Patek Philippe has several hoops to jump through, and they tell you exactly what the hoops are. And Rolex doesn't do it that way. They still have their own hoops, but keep it very vague. But maybe in the long run, it's better to be more explicit about it.